I think the feeling was at the start of the season of genuine positivity. It seemed that Charlesworth had invested money in the right areas. We got a proven coach in the A-League, albeit a few seasons back. We made some nice signings with Tommy Orr and Ross, who's since departed, and Tommy's been injured most of the season too, so neither of them paid off. I think at the start of the season it looked positive, but just never eventuated. This season, in my opinion, there's really only been one high for the season, and that was Alan Stadget's first game when we beat the Newcastle Jets. Not only because we're beating our biggest rivals, but because it was genuinely a really good performance from the team, from almost every individual player on the park that day. And it gave us a little bit of hope in much needed dark period of the season. And in terms of lows, I mean, it's been a season to forget in every regard. Our good signings haven't fired. Our proposed goal scorer left early. There's the Usain Bolt fiasco, which I think was good for marketing and PR, but anything football-wise, I think it was probably a mistake. Feeling around the club at the moment from the fans is it's a mixture of despondence. I think a lot of fans are kind of at the point now where they're just so disappointed with 5 really bad seasons in a row that they don't quite know what to do, and I think that's super reflective in the crowd numbers. Even when we weren't doing amazingly well, we could still get 7, 8, 9,000. Definitely 9 or 10 for the bigger games like the Wanderers, Newcastle, Sydney FC. Now, you know, we're hitting 4s and 5s most home games. And I think that's just a disconnection because the Central Coast fans, I'm sure they can put up with the team not doing too well for a little while, but for 5 seasons, you're gonna lose a big part of your fan base. I think there's anger from a lot of the core fans, like the really super passionate ones, the ones you see sitting in the Yellow Army or not sitting in the Yellow Army anymore, voting with their feet, and that's understandable. But then, you know, there's also that mix of fans that are really Mariners till I die, hyper passionate, and they just won't give up, which is great as well because every football club has those sort of fans. Every football club needs those sort of fans. And, you know, they're of the belief that if we stick by the club, it'll come good. And I hope that's the case.
From the Mariners, and I'll let Aidan ask the first question tonight at Michael. Take it away, mate. Look into the camera here and ask your question.
How do you think the boys are going to go today?
He's one of the great players which we'll hopefully see out there tonight. Now, how are you going? Because you
confirmed, a rare moment of joy for the Central Coast Mariners. Just their second win in Gosford this season, their first over the Wanderers here in 4 years.
After Mulvey he looked for many weeks around the middle of the season like he was at his wit's end as to what was going wrong and how it was ever going to be addressed. It must have been hell being in his role because He had success before, albeit with the team that Ange built up in Brisbane, but he still got through a year and was successful. So he's been there before and knows how to preside over a successful winning team. But he didn't know how to inspire a losing team. And I now have, maybe it's just the delusion of the rusted-on fan, but I have a lot of confidence in Alan Stajic. The way that he had them playing at the end of the season, they're like a beaten, smashed-up team with nothing to play for, suddenly discovered a backbone and started being hard to beat for a start, and being occasionally unlucky as only the Mariners can be, with a full pre-season and hopefully some decent recruitment. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Alan Stajic is the man to really start rebuilding our fortunes. I would love to have seen Hutcho in that role. I think he's the one that understands the importance of community to the Mariners. And if Alan Stajic is really going to be successful, it must happen off the park as well as on the park. He's got to find somebody who understands how important it is for the players to be out in the community and not just going to training and then becoming recluses again, or mixing in tiny little cells rather than mixing out in the community the way they did in the Laurie days. I hope that all Mariners fans can get behind Alan Stajic, but he must get behind the community as well. That's the only way it works up here.
I don't think fans have been underrepresented at the Mariners in terms of getting their opinion heard. I think, if anything, of all the A-League clubs, the fans have more of a direct line to the club and the upper management than most other clubs in the A-League. Sean Milkamp is pretty good at getting out there and speaking to fans and hearing their opinions and giving answers to members and stuff like that, which I think is a pretty admirable trait, because if you're the CEO of a football team, you don't necessarily have to get in front of the fans all the time, but he does.
There are two changes I'd like to see which hopefully would lead incrementally to improvement over coming years, because we would have to accept that we've got a big problem and it's going to take a while to fix. First of all, you need the right coach. I'm hopeful that we do have the right coach for the next little while. Alan Stajic needs to do something to re-engage the community. He needs to get the players back out in the community, visiting the small local clubs, visiting the schools, visiting the hospitals, turning up at community events, the various fates and all that sort of thing. They had to when Laurie was the coach. That kind of thing is completely gone. Certainly it's not visible. I'd be walking through Erin Affair and I'd see kids everywhere in Mariners gear, even in off-season. These days, you never see it at all. And that's tragic. It's utterly tragic. Mike Charlesworth, Alan Stajic, if you're listening, you've got to get the kids on side, because the kids drag their parents along. One of the things that I really like about Alan Stajic is that he comes from a narrative of success. He had huge success with the Matildas. Someone who is used to success is exactly the kind of coach that the Mariners need. Not someone who is hoping for success, not someone who is hoping to avoid failure, someone who is accustomed to success and knows how to go on getting success.
I think it's more about creating the right vibe and the right culture, and then the players will come, because I have a feeling that players will want to play for Alan Stajic. I have a feeling they'll want to play for him, because there are coaches the players want to play for and others they don't. I think Stajic is in that former category, so I think they're on a good wicket there.
I also believe that he definitely has a big point to prove, and so that's going to really goad him in his his approach to taking on the Mariners project. But he will be coming into, there's no doubt he'll be coming into the Mariners project with a huge point to prove in Australian football, and desperate to if he can be the one who turns the Basket Case club around, then he will be a total legend in the Australian game. He'll be up there with the Arnies and the Lauries and the Ange Postecoglou's if he can achieve. Success doesn't have to be about winning the comp. It doesn't even necessarily have to be about making the six. Success for a small club like the Mariners means playing good football, feeling connected with the club, and feeling like you've got a genuine chance of making the finals. That's what I would call success for the Mariners.
The town needs a competitive team, and it's not winning every week. Never do you need to win every week for the crowd on the coast. The crowd on the coast want a team to go and give 100%, work hard, roll out their sleeves and have a go, and win the fair share of games. I want for football, the A-League, that the Mariners are competitive. For the town, that's been really good to me. I want the town to have something to be proud of. The league needs the Mariners to be competitive, and the fans deserve a team. They were used to for many years to have a successful team. I think they start getting that success, the fans will come back. I saw one at the weekend, I don't know name his name, he's well known about town. He said he'd go to a game, him and his wife were out a walk at Terrigal. I said he'd go to a game tonight. He said no. He said we're still members, but we've done our dash. We've gave enough to the Mariners, they need to give us something to make it worthwhile us going back. And that's a competitive team, they'll go back. They'll be back there with bells on. So it's just be competitive, and that's no winning. And obviously they don't need to beat the Jets for the time being. I'm happy that we beat them, but they can beat everybody else.